If you're super opinionated, I can't trust you. What's going on? My name is Cole Connor. I'm an artist and entrepreneur, and I was put here to do two things: create and inspire. Thanks for being here. Let's get into it. Have you ever heard someone talk about something and be immediately turned off? Maybe they're yelling or a little too passionate and extreme, delusional almost. No compromise, no listening, just matter-of-factly stating their astute, very right opinion and forcing you to just nod or walk away for fear of starting a confrontation. Just me? Cool. I've had this unspoken rule for myself most of my life. If you're super opinionated, I just can't trust you. Something is off with you if you don't leave room for perspective, understanding, or at a minimum, just hearing someone out genuinely. I mostly just hate when I'm speaking and the person just isn't listening. I think in return for me feeling this way, I tend to be what they call a devil's advocate in most debates. My girlfriend probably both hates and loves that about me. Let's see, what are the biggest debate topics right now? They say God is real, 100%. I say, you can't really prove that, unfortunately. They say abortion is wrong. I say, but why? Isn't forcing someone to create something that they don't want wrong? Controlling their body wrong? They say abortion is right. Are you killing a baby? Capitalism is the way. Yeah, but that's how the poor stay poor and the rich stay rich. Socialism is the way. But then the lazy of us take advantage, and the high achievers may become demotivated. Stealing's not right, but what if you're starving? We all need more guns for protection. Nice to have, yes, but also scary to see every Joe Schmo walking around with a gun. The list goes on. There's a lot of shit to fight about. And as a society, I think having or feeling like we have to choose one side has caused a lot of issues for us, i.e. Republican, Democrat. And the more we feel not listened to, the louder we tend to get. The louder we get, the more polarized we are. And things tend to get negative at that point. As someone usually in the middle, I've sometimes wondered, does that mean I don't have anything to say? Or that I don't have any real beliefs of my own? Because beliefs in this society is either this way or this way. To bounce off the political party example, our current society will have you believe that you have to be far on one side in order to get what you want. And for the time being, that's true, especially when it comes to politics. But in general, what I've learned over the years is that this isn't the case. You don't have to be one extreme or the other. I almost always see both sides of every situation, of every scenario. But usually somewhere right in the middle is my true feelings, my stance, what I actually believe. And I honestly think that most people fall right in the middle. But then why are so many of us opinionated? Well, according to my research, scientists say the brain's job is to protect us. Makes sense. When people present ideas that go against our core belief, which in my opinion usually stems from how we were raised and in what type of society, the brain treats these ideas as if they're a personal attack, therefore causing us to act in ways that seemingly protect us from harm. We feel attacked. And going deeper, scientists like Jonas Kaplan ran experiments that studied the brain and how people respond to their core beliefs being challenged. Kaplan says this: it is well known that people often resist changing their beliefs when directly challenged, especially when these beliefs are central to their identity. I mean, it makes sense. It all makes sense. You're telling someone the way they live is wrong or incorrect, and change is not easy. And when you're being attacked, it's not easy to listen. Ultimately, to me, what this says is that we are triggered. In my experience, triggered people will do one of two things to get their point across: intimidate you to the point where you become submissive, or infuriate you and hijack your ability to think clearly and respond rationally. Therefore, you come off like an extreme person too. I quickly learned in my life that I don't like to be angry or let others get me angry. Most of the time they enjoy it anyways. So I tend to just be like, okay, interesting. Let me just let you talk. The truth is, being opinionated obviously doesn't mean someone isn't trustworthy. But for people like me, it is a huge turnoff and makes it very difficult to communicate with them. And that tends to leave a negative or nasty taste in most people's mouths. So let's look at Quora and see why people think strongly opinionated people are negative. Let's check it out. Ben says, we humans are social creatures and we seek others with similarities to us to form bonds with. But for a lot of people, it may not be so much the other person being over opinionated that is the fault. It could actually be an inwards issue, that you yourself desire people who are mostly in agreement with you. Otherwise, you don't like them for having their own opinions, and therefore you label them as over-opinionated, and those who tend to agree with you as good friends. Appreciate that answer, Ben. I totally agree, because it's not necessarily fun to constantly be arguing or debating with people. Michelle says because they usually are direct and to the point. Many times they are passionate, and that energy can come off as in your face and interpreted as aggressive. Also makes sense to me. So I think this is partly true. These first two answers, what you're seeing is that maybe these people aren't strongly opinionated. Maybe if you look at yourself, you're just viewing them that way, when maybe they're just passionate. Ronald says, strongly opinionated people are often considered as negative because they do not listen to others and don't consider others' opinions. They also have a tendency to negate any other input, especially if this might be perceived to be contrary to their opinions. The biggest problem is their pride, as they come across as arrogant know-it-alls who often prove themselves foolish. This fact appears because their information is almost always skewed by exaggerated or inaccurate truths. That is what I see a lot. A lot of exaggeration, a lot of pride, a lot of not being able to admit that they don't 100% know that this is to be true, or even admit that they are kind of closed off to other opinions. Now, my personal favorite. Carol. From now on, when you happen upon a strongly opinionated person, listen to what they have to say. I'll wager 1 month's Quora salary, whatever that is, that they are putting forth so forcefully, that what they are putting forth so forcefully is critically negative and judgmentally negative, condemning, never positive. When was the last time you heard someone raise their voice and opine in an intimidating, dominating voice? People are intrinsically good. The world is a wonderful place. Life is full of beauty and revelation. This part, understand 100% what she's saying, not 100% on board as far. Obviously, I don't think that everyone that's opinionated is necessarily negative about the world, but here's where Carol comes in clutch. To paraphrase a famous poem, we stand in a negative circle and noisily suppose, while positivity sits in the middle and quietly knows. I think that's key. Why, thank you, Carol. As someone who's in the middle, I personally just wish and hope for a society that starts to listen more to gain perspective and hear what others may be going through before we throw our opinions so rashly and passionately at the other person. I've never had a conversation where I couldn't see a little bit both sides. Never. No matter how extreme this conversation is, there's always a little perspective. I most of all think that being extreme isn't a way to get someone to see your perspective. If you want someone to open up their eyes, you have to come forth with your ears, aka listen, be open, don't be rash, don't attack, listen and have a real conversation. Get deeper with the person that you're talking to. Most of the time, we're closer to agreement than we all may think. More empathy, more listening, so we don't have to argue so much, right? I know I could do better. I think we all could do better. My plan is to start making some videos going into some sensitive topics. So I thought this would be a good starter video. As a human, I'm constantly wanting to learn, expand my mind, grow. And I feel like it's easy to get stuck in belief based on how we grew up, based on what we're currently surrounded by, based on the news, based on social media. So I just want to dive into some topics. That's what I'm going to do. But in the meantime, if you're too opinionated, I can't trust you. My name is Cole. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this was kind of interesting to you. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. I'll catch you next time. Peace. Back with a vengeance. No cap, homie, that's what revenge is. I'm a cool cat, but I'm stuck in a race with a motherfucking rat in a pitching. Fucking at or a mention. Me and Fat Rag, you be back in the kitchen. Young soda, master splinter, mathematicians back in position.